Hello and welcome again to Deuteronomy. We are covering chapter 32 today. Yes. And it's gonna be really good. As always, it's always good. We're gonna learn about the song of Moses and the transition to the death of Moses. Okay? The transition to the death of Moses and the songs of Moses. We're going to learn a lot. So, therefore, get your paper, your pencils, and everything you need ready for this study that we are doing. Okay? Because we want you to know what says the Lord. And at the same time, you get yourself ready. I want you to share this video so others could know about the Word of God. And also, I want you to subscribe or follow us on Facebook or YouTube, wherever you are watching us. I want you to subscribe to us so you could know when the next video is going to be here. And also, I would like you to donate financially. The link is on the bottom of the description. So please donate as the Lord tells you to do. Now let's get ready for the reading. Verse 1. As I told you before, right? Told you before, chapter 31, verse 1, all the way to chapter 32, which we're going to cover right now, to verse 52, they link together, right? Because last night we was talking about witness, right? Witnesses. When Moses was talking, it was about the witness to the word. Okay? The song in laws as witness from verse 16 to verse 30 of yesterday. So it's a continuation. So let's begin. Give ears, O heaven, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. May my teaching drop like the rain, my speech condense like the dew, like gentle rain on grass, like showers on new growth. For I will proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe witness to our God. For the rock, his work is perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God, without deceit, just and upright is he. Yet his degenerate children have dealt falsely with him. A perverse and crooked generation. 6. Do you thus repay the Lord, O foolish and senseless people? Is not he your father who created you? He who made you and established you? 7. Remember the days of old, consider the years long past as your father, and he will inform you, your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High appointed the nation, when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of the people according to the number of the gods. The Lord own's portion was his people, Jacob his allotted share. 10. He sustained him in a desert land, in a howling wilderness waste. He shielded him, cared for him, guarded him as the apple of his eyes. 11. As an eagle stirs up its nest and hover over its young, as it spread its wings, take them up and bear them aloft on its pinions. The Lord alone guided him. No foreign God was with him. He set him atop the height of the land and fed him with produce of year of the field. He nursed him with the honey from the grapes, with oil from plenty rock, curd from the herd, and milk from the flock, with fat of lamb and ram, Bashan bulls and goats, together with the choicest wheat. You drunk fine wine from the blood of grapes. Jacob ate his fills. Hesheron grew fat and kicked you and kicked. You grew fat, bloated, and gorged. He abandoned he abandoned God who made him, and scoffed at the rock of his salvation. 16. They made him jealous with strange God. With abhorrent thing they provoke him. They sacrifice to demons, not God, to deities they had never known, to new ones recently arrived whom your ancestors had not feared. 18. You were unmindful of the rock that bore you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. The Lord saw it and was jealous. He spurned his sons and daughters. He said, I will hide my face from them. I will see that their end will be. I will see what their end will be. For they are a perverse generation, children in whom there is no faithfulness. 21. They made me jealous with what is no God. Provoke me with their idols, so I will make them jealous with what is no people. Provoke them with a foolish nation. For a fire is kindled by my anger, and burned to the death of Shiram. It devours the earth and its increase. 20. And set afire the foundation of the mountains. 23. I will heap disaster upon them, spread my arrows against them, wasting hunger, burning consumption, bitter pestilence. The teeth of beasts I will send against them, with venom of things crawling in the dust. In the street the sword shall be reaped, and in the chambers terror. For young men and women alike, nursing child and old gray head. 26. I thought to scare, I thought to scatter them and blot out the memory of them from humankind. But I fear provocation by the enemy, for their adversary might misunderstand and say, our hand is triumphant. It was not the Lord who did all this. 28. They are a nation void of sense. There is no understanding in them. If they were wise, they would understand this. They would discern what the end would be. How could one have rooted 1,000 and to put a myriad to flight unless their rock had sold them? The Lord has given them up. 31. Indeed, their rock is not like our rock. Our enemies are fools. Their vines come from vine stock of Saddam, from the vineyard of Gomorrah. Their grapes of poison. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of serpent, the cruel venom of apes. 34. Is not this laid up in store with me, sealed up in my treasures? Vengeance is mine and recompense for the time when their foot shall sleep, because the days of their calamity is at hand. Their doom comes swiftly, Indeed, the Lord will vindicate his people, have compassion on his servant when he sees that their power is gone, neither bond nor free remaining. 37. Then he will say, where are their gods, the rock in which they took refuge, who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their libations? Let them rise up and help you. Let, let them be your protection. 39. See, now that I, even I'm he, there is no God beside me. I kill and I make alive. I wound and I heal, and no one can deliver from my hand. 40. For I lift my hands to heaven and swear, as I live forever, when I wed my flashing sword, and my hand take hold on judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries, and will repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh with the blood of the slain and the captive from the long-haired enemy. 43. Praise, O heaven, his people. Worship him, all you gods. For he will avenge the blood of his children and take vengeance on his adversaries. He will repay those who hate him and cleanse the land for his people. 44. Moses came and recited all the words of this song in the hearing of the people, he and Joshua, son of Nun. When Moses had finished reciting all these words to all Israel, he said to them, take to heart all the words that I am giving in witness against you today. Give them as a command to your children, so that they may diligently observe all the words of this law. This is no trifling matter for you, but rather your very life. Through it you may live long in the land that you are crossing over the Jordan to possess. On that very day, the Lord addressed Moses as follows. 49. Ascend this mountain of the Abarim, Mount Nebo, which is in the land of Moab, across from Jericho, and view the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the Israelites for a possession. 50. You shall die there on the mountain that you ascend, and shall be gathered to your kin, as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor, and was gathered to his kin, because both of you broke faith with me among the Israelites at the water of Meribah, Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, by failing to maintain my holiness among the Israelites. Although you may view the land from a distance, you shall not enter it, the land that I'm giving to the Israelites. Okay, this was the end of chapter 32. I hope you're getting yourself ready to take notes. Okay, I got a lot of Bible verse for you to write down, as always, so you could take time on your own as reference to see where else in the Bible that God has given the same descriptions, the same warning. And because as you see from past taping, the Bible repeats itself a lot of times. That is a way for you to take heed to the word, for you to understand it, and for you to take very close attention to it. Because once the Bible, it's in the Bible already, but you should pay attention from there. But once the Bible constantly repeats itself, when you back to the same reference page, same thing again and again, thing that it comes now we're in Deuteronomy, for example. You see that you're going back to the beginning of Deuteronomy 5, Deuteronomy 1. We did that again and again throughout the chapters before. You bring you back to Genesis, Leviticus, even verses that we didn't even go into yet is talking about those as reference to you. So you could know, get yourself ready. Okay? Get yourself ready, spiritually, mentally ready for the words that's coming up. Now, in chapter 32, we give you an overall review of chapter 43, 32, verse 1 to 43. Okay? The valedictory canticle ascribed to Moses is an eloquent poetic homily on the vicissitude of the filial relationship between the Lord and Jacob, which is known as Israel. Okay? While origin and date of composition are disputed, forensic themes and the vivid imagery of divine pathos associates the work closely with traditions of classic Israelite prophecies, especially when you look at, get your pen ready for the verses, Isaiah 30, verse 1 to 18, Jeremiah 2 and 3, Ezekiel 20, verse 1 to 44, Hosea 13 and 14, Micah 6, verse 1 to 5, and also look at Psalm 50, verse 78. Psalm 50, verse 78. That was just an overall review of chapter 1 to 34. Now, verse 1 and 3. Verse 1 and 3. The introduction idiom. Okay? The introductory idiom is both didactic and hymnic. God employs the format of a lawsuit to charge Israel with infidelity. The heaven and earth are called as witness to the lawsuit. Okay? Heaven and earth are called as witness to the lawsuit. Okay? On verse 1, it said, on the appeal for heaven and earth, right? To attend the poet's discourse. I want you to get your paper and pen ready. The first two chapters we went over already, so you should go and watch that video. The first 3 chapters. Deuteronomy 4, verse 26. Deuteronomy 30, verse 19. And Deuteronomy 31, verse 28, which we did last night. Psalm 50, verse 4. Isaiah 1, verse 2. Isaiah 1, verse 2. Okay? Now, in verse 2, he said, may my teaching drop like the rain. My teaching, right? Teaching or law. I want you to look at Isaiah 29 verse 24. Job 11 verse 4. Proverb 1 verse 5. Proverb 4 verse 2. It talks about the teaching or law. Okay? May my teaching drop like the rain, my speech condense like the dew, like gentle rain on grass, like showers on new growth. May you learn something about the Word of God, and may you apply it. Now, verse 3. Verse 3. It talk about, for I will proclaim the name of the Lord, ascribe greatness to our God. Right? Proclamation of the name of the Lord here means public defense or divine providence or honor. Okay? Look at Joshua 7, verse 7 through 9. Psalm 96, verse 8. Jeremiah 14, verse 21. Jeremiah 32, verse 20. Okay? Talk about proclamation of the name of the Lord. Okay? Now, let's concentrate on verse 4. Verse 4. The dominant poetic image is God as rock, symbolizing strength and security. Verse 4. The rock, his rock, is perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God without deceit, just and upright is he. Right? Now, I want you to look at verse 15, 18, 30, and 31. Okay? For your reference for that. 15. Jacob ate his fill. Jeshurun grew fat and kicked. You grew fat, bloated, and gorged. He abandoned God who made him and scoffed at the rock of his salvation. 18. You were unmindful of the rock that bore you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. Also, continue on to verse 30. How could one have rooted 1,000 and two put a myriad to flight unless their rock had sold them? The Lord had given them up. 31. Indeed, their rock is not like our rock. Our enemies are fools. Okay? It symbolizes God's strength and security on that one. Now, the poignant contrast between God's superlative character and the waywardness of God's people. When you look at verse 4 and 5, the rock, his rock is perfect, and all his ways are just. A faithful God without deceit, just and upright is he. Yet his degenerated children have dealt falsely with him, a perverse and crooked generation. That's verse 4 and 5. Okay? And the waywardness of God's people is developed through narrative retrospect into an indictment of the poet's audience, which is you. Okay? You are the audience. Okay? Let's read verse 6 and 7. Do you thus repay the Lord, O foolish and senseless people? Is not he your father who created you, who made you and established you? Remember the days of old, consider the years long past, as your father, and he will inform you, your elders, and they will tell you. Read 15 and 18 again. Okay? For that. And 30 and 31 again. Okay? Read 15 and 18 again. Now, the Lord start word integrity and trustworthiness are understood by the epithets rock, right? Remember we talked about the rock already on verse 15, 18, 30, and 31. And also you need to look at 2 Samuel 22 verse 3, Psalm 18 verse 2, Psalm 18 verse 31, Psalm 18 verse 46, Isaiah 17 verse 10, and Habakkuk 1 verse 12. Okay? You talk about a faithful God, right? In verse 4, right? A faithful God without deceit and just and upright. Is he a faithful God? Turn to Deuteronomy 7 verse 9, Psalm 33 verse 4, Psalm 89 verse 1 and 2, Isaiah 25 verse 1, Hosea 2 verse 20. Okay? Verse 20. In verse 5, you talk about children. Children. Yet his degenerate children have dealt falsely with him. Children. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 14, verse 1. Okay? Deuteronomy 14, verse 1 for that. Dealt falsely, act corruptly. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 9, verse 12 for that. Okay? Dealt falsely. Yet his degenerate children have dealt falsely with him. Right? So, that's in Deuteronomy 9, verse 12. Isaiah 1, verse 2 through 4. Hosea 9, verse 9. Malachi 2, verse 8. Okay? Let's continue to verse 6. Verse 6. He said, you. Accusations stresses the Lord's paternal claim on Israel. Your father who created you. Your father who created you. On verse 6. Do you thus repay the Lord? To you, yourself. You know, you that's listening to me, you. Okay? The Lord. Oh, foolish and senseless people. Is not he your father who created you, who made you and established you? Okay? I want you to look on Exodus. Exodus 4, verse 21 to 23. Jeremiah 31 verse 8 and 9. Hosea 11 verse 1 to 3. Okay? Israel's story begins with their election as God's people, while dividing of the nation among the lesser gods. On verse 8, the Lord chose Israel as a personal inheritance. On verse 9. Okay? On verse 9. So let's concentrate on from there. On the appearance for remembrance of primal events, days of old. Remember the days of old. Consider the years long past. That's verse 7. Okay. I want you to look at Isaiah 51, verse 9 to 10. Isaiah 63, verse 11. Hosea 11, verse 1 and 2. Isaiah 51, verse 9 and 10. Isaiah 63, verse 11. Micah 7, verse 14 to 15. Okay? Micah 7, verse 14 to 15. Okay? Now, I want you to also look at Deuteronomy 4. Deuteronomy 4. 32. Deuteronomy 4. 32 to 34. 32 to 34. And Job 8, verse 8 and 10. Verse 8 to 10. Isaiah 46, verse 8 to 11. Okay? And also, remember, I gave you Isaiah 63, verse 11. Take the time to read that. Okay? Remember the days of old, consider years long past. As your father, he will inform you, your elders, and they will tell you. Okay, that's right. Now, in verse 8, you talk about Most High. Most High. When the Most High, right, appointed the nation, when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of the people according to the numbers of the gods. Most High. In Hebrew is Elyon. 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 Is in appellation, generally expressing the Lord's universal sovereignty. All right? I want you to look at Genesis 14, 18 to 22. Numbers 24, verse 16. Psalm 47, verse 2. Psalm 83, verse 18. Right? It shows here, and occasionally you could see it elsewhere, other places in the Bible. Like in Isaiah 14, verse 14. Isaiah 14, verse 14. Psalm 82. Okay? Most High. Expressing the Lord's universal sovereignty. Okay? Is denoted It denotes ex the executive of the divine assembly, comprising subordinate God, subordinate gods, small gods, right? hmm Sons, sons of God, sons of God, the big G, right? As in Job 1 verse 6, Job 2 verse 1, Psalm 29 verse 1, Psalm 89 verse 5 through 7. Okay? Now, in verse 9, the Lord's own portion was his people, Jacob, his allotted share. Right? Go back into Deuteronomy 7 verse 6, Jeremiah 10 verse 16, Zechariah 2 verse 12. Okay? Now, in verse 10 to 12, for the motive of this portrait of divine providence during the Exodus wilderness, especially on Jeremiah, especially Jeremiah 2, verse 2 to 3, and also verse 6, right? He said, he sustained him in a desert land, in a howling wilderness waste. He shielded him, cared for him, guarded him as the apple of his eyes, as an eagle store up his nest and hover over its young, and spread his wings, takes them up, as he spread his wing, takes them up, and bear them aloft on his pinion. The Lord alone guided him. No foreign God was with him. Okay? Talk about the wilderness journey. The wilderness. The way the Lord was providing in the wilderness, right? When the Lord was with Israel. Jeremiah 2, verse 2 to 3, also verse 6. Hosea 2, verse 14, 15. Also Hosea 9, verse 10. Hosea 13, verse 4 to 6. And also, look at Deuteronomy 1, verse 31. Deuteronomy 2, verse 7. Exodus 15, verse 13. Exodus 19, verse 4. Isaiah 43, verse 10 to 21. Right? When the Lord said the apple of his eyes on verse 10, right? Look again on Psalm 17, verse 8. Proverbs 7, verse 2. Right? It was mentioned there also. And verse 13, 14. Verse 13 and 14. He he set him atop the height of the land and fed him with produce of the field. He nursed him with honey from the crags, with oil from flinty rock, curd from the herd, and milk from the flock, with fat of lamb and ram, Bashan, bulls and goats, together with the choicest wheat. You drank fine wine from the blood of grapes. Right? I want you to look at Deuteronomy 8, verse 7 through 9. Exodus 15, verse 17. Also Psalm 81, verse 16. Okay? Psalm 81, verse 16. He said the heights of the land, connoting mountain, right? Height of the land. He set him atop the height of the land. Okay? Look at Isaiah 58, verse 14. Amos 4, verse 13. Micah 1, verse 3 refers here to the highlands of Canaan, right? To the highlands of Canaan. That's what the Lord was talking about. I want you to go back to Deuteronomy 1, verse 7. Deuteronomy 1, verse 7. And verse 14. Talk about Bashan, right? Bashan, bulls and goat, Bashan. I want you to look on Deuteronomy 3, verse 1. Deuteronomy 3, verse 1. Right there, if you had watched the video for that, you should have that ready. I'm going to give you some extra notes for that. Okay. Bashan was a region of rich highland forest, pasture, and field in northern Transjordan, reaching beyond Gilead, across the Yarmuk River into Syria. Right? I want you to look at Deuteronomy 32, verse 13 and 14. Ezekiel 27, verse 6. Ezekiel 39, verse 18. Okay? I'm talking about Idre. It is another word for modern Dara. The battle suit near the upper ridge of the Yamak southern tributary was apparently one of Og. Remember Og, he got destroyed by God's people. One of Og. Two royal cities. The other was Ashtaroth. Ashtaroth. Look at Deuteronomy 1, verse 4. Okay? Joshua 9, verse 10. And Joshua 12, verse 4. Okay? Good. Now in verse 15, he said, Jacob ate his fill, had Jeshurun grew fat and kicked, you grew fat, bloated and gorged. You abandoned God who made him and scoffed at the rock of his salvation. Right? I want you to look at Deuteronomy 8, verse 12, all the way down to verse 17. Deuteronomy 31, verse 20. Nehemiah 9, verse 25. Okay? The appellations of Jacob and Jeshurun are also parallel in Isaiah 44, verse 2. Okay? The later designation rendered beloved one, darling, and the Septuagint, and the Septuagint is otherwise attested only in Deuteronomy 33 verse 5 and also Deuteronomy 33 verse 26. Okay? Now verse 17, 16, 17. They made him jealous with strange gods. With abhorrent things they provoke him. They sacrifice to demon, not God, to deities that had never known, to deities they had never known. The the new ones recently arrived, whom your ancestors had not feared. All right. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 31 verse 16 for that. Deuteronomy 31 verse 16. And Judges 5 verse 8. Judges 5 verse 8. Okay. On verse 16, it talk about strange gods, small g's, strange god demons, evil ones. And put on your Bible too, Psalm 44 verse 20. Psalm 44 verse 20. Psalm 89. 99. Psalm 81 verse 9. Psalm 81 verse 9. Isaiah 43 verse 12. Isaiah 43 verse 12. Okay. I want you to go back with me to Deuteronomy 31. He said, for verse 16 of Deuteronomy. Strange gods. Okay. He said on 31 verse 16, he said, 31 verse 16, the Lord said to Moses, soon you will lie down with your ancestors. Then these people will begin to prostitute themselves to the foreign gods in their midst, the gods of the land into which they are going. They will forsake me, breaking my covenant that I have made with them. All right? He said to lie down with your ancestors. Okay? I want you to go to Genesis 47 verse 30. 2 Samuel 7 verse 12. 2 Samuel 7 verse 12. 1 King 2 verse 10. And 1 King 11 verse 43. Said prostitution is frequently used as a metaphor for apostasy. Right? Apostasy. I want you to look at Exodus 34 verse 15 to 16. Exodus 34 verse 15 to 16. Judges 8 verse 1 is 7 and also verse 33. Hosea 4 verse 12. Hosea 9 verse 1. Right? That's the part I really want you to concentrate through this. Okay? Through though identified here with the gods, small g's, gods of the land, which is the land of Canaan, right? Foreign gods most often refers to cultic imports or innovations that compromise Israel's allegiance to the Lord alone, right? I want you to concentrate on Deuteronomy 32 verse 12, also verse 16, 17. Genesis 35 verse 2 and 4. Joshua 24 verse 2. Joshua 24 verse 2, 20 and 23. Judges 5 verse 8. Judges 10 verse 16. 1 King 11 verse 1 to 10. 2 King 17, 29 to 41. Okay. It's also talking about breaking my covenant, my rules on verse 20. Okay. For I have brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, which I comprised on oath to their ancestors, and they have eaten their fill and grown fat. They will turn to other gods and serve them, despising me and breaking my covenant. That was chapter 31, verse 20. Right? It's also stated again in Jeremiah 11, verse 9 and 10. Okay? Now, now, strange gods. You see, I want you to look at Psalm 44, verse 20, Psalm 81, verse 9, Isaiah 43, verse 12, right? And also what we just read before, Deuteronomy 31, verse 16. And verse 17, we talk about demons. Demons. They sacrifice to demons, not gods. Demons, evil ones. Right? Demons are associated with abhorrent Canaanite rites. Abhorrent Canaanite rites. Look at Psalm 106, verse 34 to 39. Psalm 106, 34 to 39. And, right? Demons. And verse 18. Verse 18. They were unmindful of the rock that bore you. You were unmindful of the rock that bore you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. Right? For the imagery of divine maternity complementing, right? I want you to look at verse 4 and 6 to 7, verse 6 to 7 instead. Okay, of Deuteronomy 32. And also I want to look at Isaiah 49, verse 15. Isaiah 49, verse 15. Good. I want you to concentrate now on verse 19. 19. We're going to give you a small overview with you before we go into details. Okay? Divine, soliloquent, contemplating appropriate punishment of Israel apostasy alternates with the alternated with the narrator's voice. With the narrator's voice. Look at verse 19. The Lord saw it and was jealous. He spurned his son and daughters. Right? All the way down to now read verse 28 to 33. And also verse 36. And also verse 36. Okay? That's verse 19, 28 to 33, and 36. Verse 19 to 21 talk about the judgment announced is retaliatory corresponding to the form of the crime. right, is retaliatory, corresponding to the form of the crime. Okay? Now, I want you to go back to Deuteronomy 19, verse 19 to 21, on Talion, right? On Talion. When you talk about jealousy, on jealousy as a divine retribute, right? I want you to take time to go back to Deuteronomy 4, verse 24. Deuteronomy 4, verse 24. Okay? I gotta go to Deuteronomy 19. Now, we told you before to go to Deuteronomy 19, verse 19 to 21. The judgment announced is retaliatory, corresponding to the form of the crime, right? I want to concentrate more on the talion, okay? Just retribution as well as effective deterrent, right? Go to Deuteronomy 13, verse 11. Command punishment corresponding to the harm that the culprit intended to do to the victim. The talion formula, life for life, foot for foot, that was taught on Exodus 21, verse 23 to 25, is invoked to underscore the principle of reciprocity. Reciprocity. Okay? Let me read verse 19 for you. Then you shall do to the false witness just as the false witness had meant to do to the other. So you shall purge the evil from your sight. The rest shall hear and be afraid, and a crime such as this shall never again be committed among you. Show no pity, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Okay? Now, okay. We will continue on. We told you to look at Deuteronomy 4, verse 24 for jealousy as a divine attribute, right? Okay. Said, the Lord saw it and was jealous. Okay? It's a divine attribute. They made me jealous with what is no God. Okay? Provoke me with their idols, so I will make them jealous with what is no people. Okay? Now, now, hide my face in verse 20. Hide my face. Withdrawal of divine favor and protective presence. The converse of number 6, verse 25 to 26. Right? Deuteronomy 31, 17 to 18. Psalm 13, verse 1. Isaiah 8, verse 17. Jeremiah 33, verse 5. Ezekiel 39, verse 23 to 24. Okay? Hide my face. Verse 20. He said, I will hide my face from them. Okay? Now, in verse 21, he said, no God. They made me jealous with what is no God. Is a categorical negation of the anonymous deity referring to in Deuteronomy 16 and 17. So too, the anonymous adversary selected as the Lord's instrument of revenge, of the Lord estimate of revenge. All right? They made me jealous with what is no God, provoke me with their gods. So I will make them jealous with what is no people, provoke them with a foolish nation. No people, foolish nation. May be intentionally generic. Intentionally generic. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 28, 49 to 50. Judges 2, 14 to 15. Psalm 79, verse 1 to 7. Isaiah 9, verse 11 to 12. Okay. And verse 22 to 25. The onslaught of the Lord's wrath is graphically plotted. Is graphically plotted. Right? In verse 22, it said, on fire, on fire, on fire is kindled for my anger and burned to the death of Sheol. It devoured the earth and its increase. On fire is a weapon of divine warfare. Right? I want you to look at Job 31, verse 12. Psalm 50, verse 3. Amos 1, verse 4. Deuteronomy 4, verse 24. For portrayal of cartographic cosmic effect, consuming the death of Sheol, 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 the netherworld, the earth's surface, and the foundation of the mountain. Foundation of the mountain. Right? Verse 22, he said, he devoured the earth and its increase, and set on fire the foundation of the mountain. Okay? I want you to look especially at Psalm 18, verse 7, Amos 7, verse 4. Amos 7, verse 4. Okay? Now, let's do Deuteronomy 32, verse 23. Talk about pestilence arrows. Pestilence arrows in the Lord's arsenal. Right? I will heap disasters upon them, spread my arrows against them. Right? Verse 23. I want you to look at verse 42. Verse 42. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword shall devour flesh. with the blood of the slain and the captive from the long-haired enemy. Right? Verse 42. Look at Job 6, verse 4. Psalm 7, verse 7 to Psalm 7, verse 12 to 13. And Psalm 18, verse 14. And also I think it's Lamentation, chapter 3, verse 12 to 13. Yes, chapter 3, verse 12 to 13. Ezekiel 5, verse 16. Habakkuk 3, verse 9. Habakkuk 3, verse 9. It talks about approximate covenantal curse. Right? Covenantal curse. Okay. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 28, verse 21 to 22. Deuteronomy 28, verse 22. Psalm 78, verse 49. Now, let's do 25, verse 25. In the secret, the sword shall be wreathed, and in the chambers of terror for the young men and women alike, nursing child and old gray head. Nursing child and old gray head. I want you to look at Jeremiah 6, verse 11. Jeremiah 9, verse 20 to 22. Okay. And Ezekiel 7, verse 15. And I want you to also look at Lamentation 1, verse 20, and Lamentation 2, verse 21. Okay? Israel's treachery leads to punishment. The Lord moderates this punishment out of self-concern, not because Israel deserved it. Okay? I want you to read verse 26 to verse 27. Okay? Verse 26 to verse 27. I thought to scatter them and blot out the memory of them from humankind. But I fear provocation by the enemy, for their adversaries might misunderstood and say, our hand is triumphant. It was not the Lord who did all this. Okay? Now, verse 28 to 33. Verse 28 to 33. It said, voice of sense or lacking counsel. In verse 28. Verse 28. They are a nation void of sense. There is no understanding in them. Right? Void of sense. Lacking counsel, lacking people to give them direction. And that's in Isaiah 10, verse 13. And you talk about boots of Assyria's king and the ironic interrogation of Edom in Jeremiah 49, verse 7. Okay? It's about descanting on the Lord's liberation. The poet or prophetic narrator here reproach the arrogance and brutish character of the enemy. That's an overview of 28 through 33. Okay. Now in verse 32. Verse 32. No. Let me continue on right here. The song from verse 28 to 30. Right? The song concludes with God vindication. The foolish enemy cannot understand that their earlier victories were the results of the Lord's abandonment of Israel. They could not understand that. Okay? Verse 30. Now, let's do 32. 32. Their vine came from the vine stock of Sodom, from the vineyard of Gomorrah. Right? I want you to look at Deuteronomy 29, verse 23. Deuteronomy 29, verse 23, about Sodom and Gomorrah. And also, let's do 24 to 25. 24 to 35. Is not this laid up in store with me, sealed up in my treasuries? Vengeance is mine and recompense for the time when their foot shall sleep, because the days of their calamity is at hand. Their doom comes swiftly. Okay? The agent of chastisement, will not itself escape judgment. Okay? I want to look at Isaiah 10, verse 15 through 16. Assyria, right? Talk about Assyria, right? And Jeremiah 49, verse 12 to 22. Talk about Edom, right? Verse 34 is that this, right? Is not this laid up and stored? This. The foe's transgression, which awaits divine requital, right? Look at Job 14, verse 17. Hosea 13, verse 12. Okay? Verse 35, it says, vengeance. Vengeance. Vengeance is mine. Vengeance. Retribution. Vindications. When you look for that, I want you to look at Judges 16, verse 28. Judges 16, verse 28. Psalm 94. Psalm 94, verse 1, 2, 3. Isaiah 61, verse 2. It said recompense, right? Recompense. Vengeance is mine and recompense. Okay. Equitable redress, right? Equitable redress, right? I want to look at Isaiah 49, verse 18. Hosea 9, verse 7. You talk about days of the calamity, because of the days of their calamities, days of their calamities. I want to go to Job 21, verse 30. Psalm 18, verse 18. Jeremiah 18, verse 17. And I want you to look in the book of Obadiah, verse 12 to chapter 12 to chapter 13. Chapter 12 and 13. Okay, Obadiah. And also, let's continue with verse 36. 36 to 30, 36 to 42. On verse 35, he said, vengeance, right? When the Lord will talk about vengeance, I want you to look at verse 41 to verse 43. Verse 41, verse 41, and also verse 43. Okay? Moses came and recites all the words of this book in the hearing of the people. He and Joshua, sons of Nun. No, that's not like 41. I did 44, sorry. When I wet my flashing sword and my hand take hold on judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries and will repay those who hate me. 43. Praise, O heaven, his people. Worship him, all you gods, for he will avenge the blood of his people. Okay? So, verse 41 and 43 implies vindication of the Lord's right as Israel God and the restoration of Israel's status. In verse 33 to verse 39, right? In contrast to false gods, the Lord is the only one worthy of the designation God. Right? Designation God. Now, when you read verse 33 to verse 38, when you read that, 37, sorry, verse 37 to 38 and 39, 38, who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drunk the wine of their liberation, let them rise up and help you. Let them be your protection. 39, 30, that's 38. Let me read verse 37. Then he will say, where are their gods? The rock in which they took refuge, who ate the fat of their sacrifice and drank the wine of their liberation. Let them rise up and help you. Let them be your protection. Verse 37, 38. Interrogation of Israel, right? They was interrogating Israel, right? I want to look at Isaiah 40. Isaiah 40, verse 25 to verse 31, right? Interrogation of Israel or its adversaries, right? I want to also look at Isaiah 41, verse 1 to 4. Or it could be both of them, right? Right? And Isaiah 43, verse 8 to 13. Isaiah 44, verse 6 through 8, right? On the mockery of impotent gods, small g's, gods, and those who foolishly confess them. Right? I want you to look at Judges 10, verse 10 to 14. 1 King 18, verse 22. Isaiah 46, verse 1 and 2. Jeremiah 2, verse 26 to 28. Okay. Now, right? It was comparing in contrast to false God. The Lord is the only one worthy of the designation God. He's the one worthy to be called God. All right? No one else. Now, let's do 39. 39. See now that I, even I, am here, am He. There is no God beside me. I kill, I make alive, I wound, and I heal, and no one can deliver from my hand. Okay? The unanswered, the unanswered queries support the Lord's assertion of exclusive sovereignty as often in the trial scene of second Isaiah. Okay? Second Isaiah. In Isaiah 40, verse 28 to 31. Isaiah 41, verse 4. Isaiah 43, verse 10 to 13. Isaiah 44, verse 6. Also in Deuteronomy 4, verse 32 to 40. Okay. Okay. He said killed in verse 39. 39. He said kill and make alive. I kill and I make alive in verse 39. All right. I want you to look at 1 Samuel 2, verse 6 to 8. Okay. Now, it says, I wound and I healed. Right? I wound and I healed. Verse 39. Talk about his power. And look at Job 5, verse 18. Job 5, verse 18. Isaiah 30, verse 26. Hosea 6, verse 1 and 2. Right? And Exodus 15, verse 26. Now let's do 40. Let's do 40 to 42. The laws take a war oath to be vindicated against all enemies. Take a war oath to be vindicated against all enemy. Right? 40 to 42. For I lift up my hands to heaven and swear, as I live forever, when I wet my flashing sword, and my hands take hold on judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries, and will repay those who hate me. I will make my arrow drunk with blood, And my sword shall devour flesh, and the blood of the slain and the captive from the long-haired enemy. Okay? Promissory oath of the divine warrior. As I live forever. Right? As I live forever. Hmm? And verse 40, he says that, as I live forever. Okay? I want you to look at Isaiah. Isaiah 49, verse 18. Jeremiah 22, verse 24. Ezekiel 5, verse 11. Zephaniah 2, verse 9. Okay? For the theme in carnage depicted, right? For the theme in carnage depicted, I want you to look at Isaiah 1, verse 24. Isaiah 1, verse 24. And Jeremiah 46, verse 10. Nehemiah, verse 1, chapter 1, verse 2. Okay? Now, let's look at the portraits of the Lord's retribution against Edom. Are noteworthy. Okay? Get your notes, get your paper ready. Okay? Against retribution against Edom are noteworthy. So take your paper and stay ready. Look at Isaiah. Isaiah 34. Verse 5 to 7. Isaiah 34, verse 5 to 7. Isaiah 63, verse 1 to 6. Ezekiel 25, verse 12 to 14. Verse 12 to 14. Let's concentrate on verse 40. Verse 43. Okay. The poet called upon the gods to praise the Lord as the victorious divine warrior. Right? Okay. To restore. I want you to look at. I want you to look at 43. 43. Praise, O heaven, his people. Worship him for all you gods. For he will avenge the blood of his children and take vengeance on his adversaries. He will repay those who hate him and cleanse the land for his people. Right? Is the concluding summon of the heaven to celebrate redemption of the Lord's people. Look at Isaiah 49, verse 13. Forms an inclusion, a repetition signaling the beginning and end of a unit with appeal, in verse 1. Let's read verse 1 for you. Right? Give ear, O heaven, and I will speak. Let the earth hear the words of my mouth. Right? So, appeal of verse 1. Subordination of the God's echoes. And verse 8. When the Most High appointed the nations, when he divided humankind, he fixed the boundaries of the people according to the number of the gods. Right? And also in verse 37. Verse 37. Then he will say, where are their gods? The rock in which they took refuge. Okay? It talks about cleanse. Cleanse. I will cleanse. Cleanse. And cleanse the land for his people. Right? Or purity. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 21 verse 8. Cleanse, purity, or expiate. 21 verse 8. Now, in 44 to 47, 44 to 40, 44 to 47, right? It talks about transition to the death of Moses. Transition to the death of Moses, right? Principal strand, principal strands of Deuteronomy 30 to 31, especially are woven together in this conclusion to the Moab covenant for the multiple overlapping connection of the leitmotif words. Mhm. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 29 verse 1, verse 9, 19, 28, right? And also Deuteronomy 30 verse 1. It said, talk about things, right? Talk about things. 30 verse 1. Talk about things, right? And I want you to look at, and also verse 14. Also verse 14. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 30, 31 verse 1. That's Deuteronomy 29 verse 1, verse 9, verse 19, verse 30. Deuteronomy 30 verse 1. We talk about things. And Deuteronomy 30 verse 14. Deuteronomy 31 verse 1, verse 12, verse 24, verse 28, and verse 30. These are what I want you to concentrate on. Okay, those verses. Now, in Deuteronomy 32 verse 44. Joshua, or Hosea, right? Verse 44. Moses come and recite all the words of this song in the hearing of the people, he and Joshua, son of Nun, right? Hosea. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 13 verse 8. Deuteronomy 13 verse 16. 13 verse 8. Not Deuteronomy, Numbers, I'm sorry. I want you to look at Numbers. Oh my God. Numbers 13. I know that didn't sound right. Numbers 13, verse 8. And also Numbers 13, verse 16. Okay. Verse 13, verse 8. From the tribe of Ephraim, Hoshea, son of Nun, is the same thing as Joshua. That's what I wanted you to see. And verse 16, these were the name of the men whom Moses sent to spy out the land. And Moses changed the name of Hosea, son of Nun, to Joshua. Okay? That's what I wanted you to see. Okay, that's what I wanted you to see. That was something else. No, that's it. Okay. That was Numbers 13, verse 8, and Numbers 13, verse 16. Is now in place as Moses' successor. Joshua is now in place as Moses' successor on Deuteronomy 31, verse 14 to 15, and also Deuteronomy 31, verse 23. Okay? Now, all the words refers to the song and this law. Both will serve as future witnesses against Israel. And verse 46. Alright? Verse 46. He says to them, take to heart all the words that I am giving in witness against you today. Give them as a command to your children, so that they may diligently observe all the words of this law. Right? All the words refers to the song and this law. Both will serve as future witnesses against Israel. I want you to look at Deuteronomy 31, verse 19, and also Deuteronomy 31, verse 21, and verse 26. 19, 21, 26 of 31. Okay. Now, let's do 47. 47. This is no trifling matter for you, but rather your very life, though it through it you may live long in the land that you are crossing over the Jordan to possess. A final admonition. Recall the exaltation of Deuteronomy 30, verse 11 to 20. Deuteronomy 30, verse 11 to 20. Listen to the video for that if you need to. And also Deuteronomy 4, verse 26. And also verse 40. Deuteronomy 6, verse 1 and 2. Leviticus 18, verse 5. Okay? He said it's no trifling matter. No trifling matter. This is no trifling matter for you. It's like saying no empty words. Take what I'm saying seriously. It's no joke. Okay? No empty words. through it. It's also said through it. Right? By this word. Right? Okay, through it. Through it you may live. Now, by this word you may live long. Same thing. By this word you may live long. Through it you may live long. Okay? Same thing. So take it very seriously. Now look, let's look at 48 to 52. 48 to 52. Transition to the Pentateuchal amount. Pentateuchal amount account of Moses' death. Moses' death on chapter 34. With this resumptive paraphrase of Numbers 27, verse 12 to 14. Priestly tradition. Priestly tradition. And also Deuteronomy 3, verse 23 to 27. Deuteronomy 3, verse 23 to 27. Okay? Verse 49. Talk about Nebo. Nebo. Ascend this mountain of the Abarim, Mount Nebo. Mount Nebo is a northern promontory of the Abarim Range that flanks the eastern shore of the Dead Sea. If you look at Deuteronomy 3 verse 17, Deuteronomy 3 verse 27, Deuteronomy 34 verse 1, he talks about that. And Numbers 33 verse 47 to 48. Okay? Now, verse 50. Verse 50. For Aaron's death on Mount Hor. Right? For Aaron's death on Mount Hor. You shall die there on the mountain that you ascend, and shall be gathered to your kin, as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor. It was gathered to his kin. It was gathered to his family, right? Now, if you want to see the priestly accounts, right? I want you to go back to Numbers. Numbers 20, verse 22 to 29. Numbers 20, 22 to 29. And Numbers 33, 38 to 39. And also Deuteronomy 10, verse 6. Deuteronomy 10, verse 6. Let's do verse. Let's do verse 51. 51. Broke faith. Because both of you broke faith with me among the Israelites at the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, by failing to maintain my holiness among the Israelites. Okay. According to Numbers 20, verse 10 to 13, also 24, in Numbers 27, verse 12 to 14, Moses and Aaron sinned while securing water from the rock at Meribah Kadesh. At Meribah. Okay? They broke faith. Now, if you look at Exodus. And Exodus 17, verse 1 to 7. Psalm 106, verse 32. All right. Numbers 20, verse 1 to 13. We talk about the priestly tradition. All right. Melbeth Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin is apparently identical with the oasis of Kadesh Barren in northern Sinai. Right? If you look at Deuteronomy 1 verse 2 and Joshua 15 verse 1 to 3, Ezekiel 47 verse 19, Ezekiel 48 verse 28. Right? As I said, we will continue on with the book of Deuteronomy. We are almost through. I hope you was able to learn something as I was reading it. If you did not understand anything from what I just said, I'll gladly take time to explain it to you individually. You could email me at tfdcogi@live.com, tfdcogi@live.com, and I'll gladly answer any question you have. Okay. If you are taking the class, you already know I need a up to 10 page review of Deuteronomy, of what you learn. What does it mean? How do you view it? A 10 page review of Deuteronomy. Email it to me, or I will get it. Okay? And then at the end, we'll talk. And I'll grade your paper and send it to you back. Okay? That's why I make sure I give you a lot of verses, a lot of Bible reference to it, so when you do your paper, you know exactly what to do. It should not be that hard, because I did all the hard work for you by giving you all the reference pages. So it should be easy for you to write down a 10-page review of Deuteronomy. And also of Genesis, Exodus, Numbers, Leviticus, stuff like that. It should be easy for you to do that, because I already gave you all the Bible verses and reference and explanation that to go along with it. Okay, I didn't leave you empty-handed to read it all by yourself, and then you are saying, okay, I didn't understand this, I didn't understand that. But if you don't understand, when I speak, sometimes I stutter a lot. I'm getting better at my stuttering. I stutter a whole lot, and I sometimes speak fast, so that's maybe a problem for you. So if you need more help, email me, and I will do my best to answer it without the stuttering. Okay? May the Lord bless you. May the Lord keep you. May the Lord watch over you, your home, your family, and all those that you come into contact with. Amen. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to contribute, through your donations and your time and your prayer for this ministry. Peace be unto you. Shalom.